Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what part of the world you're joining us from today. My name is Cherise Dalton, and I'm the Marketing Manager for North America at Actify. And I'd like to welcome and thank you all for joining today's SpinFire Tips and Tricks webinar. So as a reminder, all attendees are muted and in listen-only mode for the duration of the webinar. Should you have any questions during the presentation, please submit them through the questions panel on the webinar dashboard, and an Actify representative will reach out to you after the webinar. Today, we have my colleagues Todd Underhill and Alan Hardy presenting for you. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Todd.
Cherise, thank you for the introduction. Again, my name is Todd Underhill. I'm a Senior Account Manager at Actify, and welcome to our SpinFire Tips and Tricks webinar. I know that a lot of you here today are here for our SpinFire webinar. So before we jump into the product demo, I want to just take a moment to give you another way to look at SpinFire, really to look at the value of SpinFire, what SpinFire can bring to your organization, and provide you with an overview of our SpinFire Enterprise solution. The purpose is to challenge the norm, to cut costs, increase efficiencies, and just be more competitive. And here's today's agenda. I'll let you take a quick look at that. Problems justifying change. So what are some of the common symptoms that are impeding your strategic goals? Late response to RFQs, how does that affect your business? Problem with production launches, it's about having organized information and where to find the latest data. How many times have you heard from the wrong designs going into production? We've heard stories from our customers and prospects of the overall problems and the cost associated with responding to RFQs late and the wrong designs going into production. A contributing factor, if not the root cause, is the team's lack of access to the product knowledge and collaboration across the enterprise. Digital part information to view, collaborate, and investigate is mandatory across an organization. For suppliers handling multiple CAD formats, it's really part of doing business with your customers. CAD viewers provide a cost-effective alternative solution to the high-end CAD software suites for interaction with the CAD models, but their full potential value is limited when only a select few users have access. 4% of a typical organization are those what we call power users, users that can make changes to the CAD file. So what do you do with everyone else in your organization? A good percentage of them need access to the product data as well. If you don't have access to the product knowledge, what is that risk? Errors, increased costs, they're forced to make uninformed decisions. And lastly, they bother their coworkers by walking down to the next cubicle to find or to get the information from them. A typical vendor does not talk about strategic value. They usually sell on features. Imagine this, we have 60 plus competitors, and to my knowledge, not even one of them sell a true enterprise solution. It's on a per seat basis. So what does this mean to you? You forego goals, you ask who can go without, you limit access to product knowledge. Without access, users, managers find small budgets to buy from vendors of their choice to solve a niche problem. I've seen where companies have multiple vendors across the entire organization and they're unable to collaborate. Again, the real cause is that, again, the typical vendors sell on a per seat basis and not an enterprise level. So they're limiting who gets access to the product data. Traditionally, viewers have been licensed to a single workstation or concurrent user group. This has restricted access to users with the most immediate need. Actify's SpinFire Enterprise solution provides access to everyone, every device within an organization, which can be defined as a location, a division, or again, the entire enterprise. When access to SpinFire is unlimited, sales teams mark up designs while meeting with their customers. Manufacturing and quality teams can check specifications and tolerances on the shop floor. And now everyone has design or access to the design information. They truly do have a single version of the truth. What if you could have employees access SpinFire at work, on the road, or at home to maximize productivity? Access SpinFire on every computer from the shop floor to the top floor corporate-wide. Access in conference rooms by interns, temps, consultants, management, and others. What if you could let everyone collaborate openly and measure from the same version of the truth? What would that mean for your business? We have a lot of companies taking advantage of SpinFire Enterprise solution. I've seen where a company went from just a handful of users to over 20 plus users in a matter of a month's time. They're finding ways to get other individuals involved, and this is just one example. Additionally, a single SpinFire subscription consolidates the cost of licensing and managing multiple viewers and ensures consistent interpretation of the CAD models, therefore reducing errors. SpinFire provides access to all major CAD formats and empowers users across the extended enterprise to inspect and interact with the CAD files. It enhances workers' ability to collaborate with customers and suppliers, as well with their own internal teams, to improve productivity, accelerate communication, and eliminate those costly mistakes. If you look at the cost of a typical CAD system, it's upwards of $50 per user per day. Now compare that to SpinFire Enterprise, where the daily cost per user is less than the cost of a cup of coffee per user per day. So here's an example of one of our SpinFire Enterprise customers and the cost savings that they've seen after purchasing SpinFire Enterprise. They're a tier 1 automotive supplier. They have 4 tech centers. They're able to terminate 43 native CAD licenses. They gained unlimited SpinFire for at work, on the road, or at home. This supplier saved over $200,000 in annual costs by terminating those 43 native CAD licenses, and they were able to standardize on a vendor-neutral platform. Here's one comment from one of our customers using SpinFire Enterprise. Without special training, you can easily open, measure, and check data and important files. You can share your data with colleagues and customers. And the key takeaway here is it's one solution for the whole company. Another product that we recently announced is our CAD Publishing solution. The purpose of CAD Publishing is to publish data from a native CAD file for downstream use. Like SpinFire, it handles multiple native CAD formats and allows your organization to convert those CAD files. It can be a single part or an assembly from a designated folder, and convert your CAD files to other formats like SpinFire Ultimate, an image or a thumbnail, or other formats like STEP, IGES, or JT, and others. So again, I just want to thank you for your time, and I'm now going to pass this over to Alan Hardy for a product overview.
Thank you, Todd. Again, my name is Alan Hardy. I am a technical consultant here at Actify. So to get started, I just wanted to make a couple of announcements with SpinFire. So here we have just wanted to provide you a resource where you can find some information and links. It's called help.actify.com. Here you can find the latest release notes, find the recommended hardware specs for your computers, as well as just information about all the functions in SpinFire that you can search through. So, with just some important notes again for announcements. The prereq for installing SpinFire is to have the Net Framework 4.8 installed. And if your Windows updates is already up to date, then you should already have that. So you shouldn't have to worry about that. But that is a prereq for using the latest version of SpinFire. And if you're using a floating license with SpinFire, then starting with 11.9.0, the next major release, we would suggest that you upgrade that floating license manager to 11.8.0. And then in the past, we've always provided a 32-bit version and a 64-bit version to install SpinFire. Starting with 11.9.0, that 32-bit installation will no longer be available. Go ahead to the next slide. Now, with the point release of 11.8.3, what we do periodically throughout the year, we release a few point releases that just keeps up to date with the latest versions of the native CAD applications. So for 11.8.3, this will be compatible with CATIA R31, as well as NX 1980 series, as well as if you go to our help site, you would see all the different supported versions for any additional updates you may have for Inventor, JT, Parasolid, or what have you. Go ahead to the next slide, Todd. So what we wanted to talk about today was the import and export formats, and I'll show you throughout the demo today all the different ways that you can and attributes you can export from SpinFire. But with the CAD to CAD module, which is a feature or part of a module for your license that you can purchase, that would include the standard SpinFire base importer pack, which includes some standard formats such as IGES and AutoCAD, OBJ formats, STL, but you will also have the ability to import Autodesk Inventor, CATIA V5 formats, JT, STEP, Parasolid, and as well as some additional export features. With that CAD to CAD, you will also be able to export or convert that format to a STEP or an IGES or Parasolid or everything else that you see on this list. Now go ahead to the next slide. And this just kind of gives you a visual. If you were to open a SpinFire application, just go to the File Export menu. If you do not have the CAD to CAD module, then some of those formats would be grayed out. You would not be able to export it as a STEP or JT for that instance. But with CAD to CAD, you would then be able to support all of the items on that list. And go ahead to the next slide. So the SpinFire Enterprise subscription model, that will give you an unlimited number of licenses, which can be a no-lock or a floating license. And the subscription contract can go from 1 to 5 years. The price, Todd mentioned kind of a cup of coffee per user per day, but it's calculated by the total number of employees or size of your company or locations. And that cost, with the subscription model, that cost of maintenance is already included within that subscription model, within that price. Go on to the next slide. And now we'll go ahead and jump right to our demo. See my screen. All right. So within SpinFire Ultimate, there are a few different ways of exporting and converting files. So just to reiterate what I showed you in the PowerPoint slides, we have the file export menu, and with the CAD to CAD module, you would have all these different formats that you can export to. So this radiator reinforcement assembly, if I wanted to export this as a STEP file, I'll go to File, Export, STEP, and then I would get a menu that appears, gives you some options to choose what information you want to export it as. Do I want to include that metadata that's built into the CAD data? The format, I can switch to AB 203, 214, and 242, but 214 is the de facto standard. So if you were to share STEP files outside your organization, the recommended is always AB 214. And the save file path, so the file path will default to the location that the file is currently located. If I wanted to change the location or change the file name, I could type it in here. I can click on this browse button. That'll open up the file navigator and give it a file, give it the file name, the folder location there, and then I can choose the type, whether that's a step file or a compressed step file format. In addition, we can export. Another example here is JT. You can, let's say I want to show only this part. I'll go to export JT, and I want to export only the visible items. So again, that gives you the file path, the file name where I want to save it as, and that again by default is the location where the standard file is already is from. And if I click export, that'll go ahead and just translate that data to JT format. We also have our library, which gives you kind of a way to navigate your folders or your network drive. You can add a connection. It helps to bookmark those folder locations so you don't have to go digging through those folders on your computer. So let's say I want to go to this example where this aqua bottle is, and I want to convert maybe this this lid. I could simply right click on that part and click on convert, and this convert menu it will allow me to convert to multiple formats at once. So I can say I want to create an IGES file, I want to create a JT file and a step file. Include the attributes, PMI data if there's any, and then simply just go ahead and click convert, and that will now bring up the progress down here at the bottom for this lid.cat part and the format that's converting to step JT IGES, and then the progress here is completed. And I'll go ahead and just refresh this, and you'll see the new files are now generated right here. Similarly, I could go to File, Convert, and then I would just point to one of those models and click Open. And this is a way to convert files without actually having to open up the file into a workspace and converting those files straight from the Convert menu. So whereas if I go to File, Export, that's taking the current workspace that I have open to convert those files, to export those files to these different formats. And again, the Convert menu allows you to browse to the file location and be able to select those different formats, again, without having to open up a workspace for that file. So it just saves some time. We also have some features here to export images, hard copies, and parts lists. So let's take, for example, we have a drawing, a 2D drawing. I can export that as an image. And again, it gives me this menu, save file path. I can also choose whether, if I want to include the colored background, that whatever image or whatever colors in that workspace, scale bar, ruler, and then I would just click on the apply button after I make that change. And now you see the ruler on the top and the left-hand side here. Control the size of that image, and this save file path, if I click on this browse button, I can then choose what image format I want to convert that to. And with the hard copy, this will create a crisp 2D PDF document. So it converts, let's say your AutoCAD drawing, your CAT drawing from CATIA, your NX drawing, and converts that to a 2D PDF document. And this is the suggested way to export it as a hard copy, so that it saves it as a vectorized print, or the lines are much more clear as opposed to being pixelated. We also have the ability to export a parts list. So by doing that, I'll go to File, Export Parts List. And here we get just a preview of the entire assembly tree structure, the quantity. And I could also choose, maybe I want to show physical properties that will include the additional columns for that physical properties. And once that's finished calculating, I can then click on Save, and I can save it as a text file, CSV, XML, or an Excel spreadsheet. In addition to exporting as a parts list, I could also go to my parts properties chart and export a BOM list with all of the additional attributes information. So if there was property data, material information built into that CAD model, you can include that as well in this exporting it as again as a spreadsheet. We also have the ability to export from a section cut. So if I enable this section cut, let's say I want to export a 2D image of that section cut. So I'll turn on my section plane, and then with this plane visible here, I'll right click on that plane, and I can simply select Create 2D Document. And that automatically creates this 2D document built into this workspace. So just to differentiate between what these tabs are, these are the 4 different workspaces that I have open. And in the ProgDie example here is that 3D workspace here. And when I exported or I created that 2D document, it embedded that 2D document automatically into that workspace, 2 separate tabs here. So a lot of times if you're opening a native CAD file, there might be a 3D tab and a 2D tab, for example. In addition, I could right click and maybe I want to export a DXF file of that printout. So let's save it to this folder, this DXF file. So that automatically just created this DXF file right here. And I can, if I drag and drop that into this workspace, it'll ask me if I want to continue with importing it. Click OK. Just the model. And it's just another way of creating that 2D document of that section cut. We also have this quad view. So let's say you want to do a kind of a 2D printout of all the different different side views. Just toggling over to the side view or the quad view can give it that look. You can control the rendering style, remove the grid, and kind of get something like this as an end result. Just to give it a 2D look and feel, and then you can add measurements to that as well. When looking at this this CAD model and wanting to do maybe a clean printout of this model, let's say I want this hidden lines removed so it looks more 2D. It might have a problem with just kind of a perspective mode where you want it to be more aligned. Then you would want to toggle that to this parallel mode. And then I could take this and export it as an image. Okay, that's all we had planned for today. So I will hand this back over to Todd.
So, Alan, thank you for that. I just want to go over a couple things regarding our support. We have a couple ways that you can reach our support team. One is via the web at http://support@actify.com or email at SpinFireSupport@actify.com as well. And then we'll be sending out notifications on our next webinar. Feel free to subscribe to our 8 p.m. linked on our 8 p.m. LinkedIn group on LinkedIn. And then you can follow us on Twitter at Actify_Inc. And really that's all we had for it. I really do appreciate everybody's time. And here's the best way to contact me if you have any questions at my email address or my mobile number as well. So again, we thank you very much for you guys taking time today.
Thank you, Todd and Alan. And again, like Todd said, thank you to all who've attended. We appreciate your time. We have a few questions at the end of this webinar, so please stick around and answer those. And we look forward to seeing you in our next webinar. Thanks, everybody, and have a good rest of your day. Take care.